Give yourself a big hand. A little bit more. Okay, let's analyze yourself. Well, this was an incredible year. We had about several events for last 1 year, and I'm absolutely thankful to all of you guys. A lot of faces, I know them personally in last 1 year, and we have seen several success stories. So I'm not going to take up a lot of time, and my job today is just to make sure everything runs smooth. Two people I'm very thankful for last 1 year. Dr. K, who is here, founding chairman. Incredible and magical personality. It's absolutely fun to work with him. And the second person is my wife. She has helped me a lot. Not only at personal front, but we are founders, co-founders. We both co-founded our company, and she took care of my company business professionally, personally also. And I also want to say a few, this is our first event. After doing 8 events, we found some sponsorship and support, and which is huge. So there are a few people who have been, very, courageous, and Karthik is one of them. He is sponsored, one of the sponsors, grand sponsors. I don't know if we have someone from SunTrust here. Oh, Caitlin, right here. They are one of the sponsors. Of course, we sponsored one of them, and Dr. K is the major sponsor. Thank you, everyone, and I will take a mic to Dr. K.
Thank you, Kunal. I think he was just trying to talk a little bit nice about me because I wrote a check for this event. So, I think when Kunal approached me about 1.5 years ago, I took interest in forming a TIE chapter here because of its fundamental principle, which was of a social nature of giving back. And there are so many entrepreneurs that have struggled through, and they've got some kind of breaks and learned a lot along the way. And it was felt that if those types of people can get together, and if not write a check, at least share their experiences, provide mentorship, and try and get a new and younger generation to get to that level. And one of the challenges that I was discussing yesterday is in our Tampa Bay area. Surprisingly, when I Google, it says that Tampa is the #2 place for young entrepreneurs to start. So if you Google, you will see that type of detail. The challenge that I saw was there are not enough, there are not enough people that are visible. And I just met a speaker that's going to follow me, and Wight. But there are people like him, and there are many others who have achieved a dramatic success, yet they have not been seen. And I'm hoping that TIE would be a platform. The other point I told Kunal yesterday, that one has to be persistent and persevering. Just like any entrepreneurship that you go into, it is that man who sticks on and works on with title or without title. And unless there are few people of that type that partner together and work together, we will not be able to succeed. And I'm bringing this point up to this group only to say that TIE's success is your success, is our success, is Tampa Bay success. If we can showcase entrepreneurs who have succeeded, if we can help start up some things, And I've shared this many a times in India or in days past, and I can only relate to culturally to India, where there was a lot of poverty. And when a social event like wedding occurs in a family, the whole village or relatives contribute a small amount to the family because there are people who are barely able to get through their day-to-day living. And an event of this type, which needs to be celebrated, needs extra cash. And think about it. So when a family gets married, the rest of the village is contributing maybe $1 to it, and that makes his marriage go successfully. Everybody come in, they cook together, they participate, they enjoy. And when there is somebody else's marriage, the other group comes. And I bring this concept here to say that if 200 or 300 people were to contribute $1,000, you have now a $200,000 or $300,000 fund. And it's not a lot of money for each one, yet you will be able to jumpstart and help some people. In the last year that we have done this, we've at least been able to bring 5 companies to present their ideas, of which one got funded, and I think when you go to your iPhone, you will see the Feather app, and that's an example of that. The better thing that I can say about, brag about it is, they got a second round of funding from outside. And that's the concept that I would like to share with you and tell you and plead with you that it's time that we look at this. So this is a good forum for exchanging ideas, meeting people, but we should keep this concept of figuring out how we can help a group. And once you create that reputation that in Tampa Bay there is these type of opportunities for a startup. You see, in a startup company, sometimes 25 to 50,000 is a lot of money. And tonight, Ravi is not here, but whoever is there will be able to see him. He is a person born in Tampa, and my wife just told me that he is also an entrepreneur of type, and I agree. Started on his own, beating drums, and now reached in Hollywood and has created an instrument using technology. But entrepreneurs are in many forms, in many fields. It does not have to be only technology. So in our area, of course, healthcare and technology are 2 main focuses. But what I want to share with you is entrepreneurship comes in many different ways. And it is our role as TIE to promote, encourage, and bring these people together. So I don't want to take too much time because there are better speakers, more successful people in their way who have struggled and come to the point. And the person following me is one of those. And you will see in many of these people the simplicity and humility and willingness to help. And I believe that all of us can contribute to this cause in many ways. One of the things I would suggest is that more of us become charter members, and Ty may not like it, but I may say that part or all of that money should be going to support new entrepreneurs. But we have to figure out a way. Dollars and cents are important. So funding, and I'm emphasizing that we have to, but we should then really create an environment to help people. So my only message, take-home message today is let's all unite together to find a way of making this city an incubator of new companies that will be creating a lot of jobs and a lot of wealth in the community of ours that we love so much and where we resided. I will end here, and I may take, do I have time? I may take 2 or 3 minutes of suggestions from anybody if they want to give, or alternatively write something on a piece of paper and hand it over to Kunal that we feel this is how you can improve, these are the mistakes we saw, and these are the changes that will help, and this is how I would like to help. So whatever it may be, any of those categories, you can give us a suggestion. I will be open to it. At least my time is now over, but what I can commit to this group and to TIE, that whenever I'm called upon, I will not force myself onto them, but when I'm called upon, I will be there willing to help and do my part. Thank you very much for giving me this time. And I hope you will enjoy the rest of the day and the evening. Thank you very much.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kiran Chaganlal. I'm from Orlando, and I'm a charter member for TIE Tampa. Gives me great pleasure to introduce and to kickstart this inaugural TIECON Florida with a keynote speaker of the stature of Rob Wight. I've known Rob for a number of years, and he's been a great supporter of TIE. He has spoken at previous TIE events in Florida, and he's always accepted the invitation to speak, and very graciously too. You might have heard of Rob because he was a high-flying senior executive with companies like Microsoft, Wang Computers, Seagate, and of all the places, he chose to come to Orlando to be an entrepreneur and to start up his own company, which he did in 1999. Set up a company called Channel Intelligence. He co-founded that, was the CEO and later chairman and the chief software architect for the company. Grew the company from nothing, grew the customer base, grew the technology, set it all up, increased the revenues, raised money again and again. And over a period of time, earlier this year, that company was acquired by Google for a pretty sizable number, followed by a lot of zeros after that. So here is a person, and by the way, having done that, I'm not even sure whether he took a day off. He just started up another venture in a similar field, and he's on that journey once again. So here is a person who is an accomplished entrepreneur, not done that 10, 20, 30 years ago, is doing it right now, right before us. So what we're going to have is to hear from him what he does, how he does, what does it take to be an entrepreneur. And so there are some practical nuggets of advice that we can all walk out of this room and begin to use right away. And as though that is not enough for Rob, he's also a very accomplished triathlete. He's run 6 Ironman, several marathons and half marathons, and we'll hear a little bit more about that. So without further ado, please give a very warm and TIE welcome to our keynote speaker to start off today's conference, Rob Wight.
Hello, everyone. So this presentation that you see here, that you will see portions of because of the giant white stripe that's running down the middle of it right now, is really something that I developed a number of years back to sort of address the question that people kept asking me, which was, so what advice would you give me? How do you go about doing that? So a little bit of my background. So the title of this talk is Practical Dreaming, Turning Visions and Goals and Everyday Actions into Success. So just quick on my background. I have been in the high-tech industry for many years, storage industry for a long time. Eventually went to work for Microsoft, was on the Windows team at Microsoft, worked on the releases of some of the operating systems you're no longer using today, but I would argue are better than some of the Windows which you're using today. And then left Microsoft for a personal reason. It had to do with the health of my eldest son. He was developing chronic ear infections in Seattle, and the doctor basically told us that we were either going to move south or he was going to lose his hearing. Some of my friends at Microsoft said, what a tough decision. Like, yeah, not really seeing the tough decision in here. So I left Microsoft and moved all the way to Florida, where we had lived before. He became very healthy, and I was sitting in Florida wondering what I was going to do. And I started a company. The company was Channel Intelligence. And we ultimately sold Channel Intelligence for $125 million to Google last year after 14 years in business. So what people now are asking me was not how do I succeed, but how the heck how did you do that? What did you do? What did you do to make that successful? So in Channel Intelligence, we had a really very clear vision. Not so clear to you today, but very clear to us, which has changed the way that people buy things. That was our vision. We wanted to link brands and retailers, and this was a time when the internet was emerging, Google was emerging, and we wanted to figure out how to link all the people who sold things together and figure out how to get someone to pay for that. That was our vision. We had a goal, which was different than our vision, which was to control the data behind the commerce universe, to literally be the person who controlled all the data. Now that's a pretty audacious goal. And in order to accomplish that, what we needed to do was we needed to create a standard that mattered, that we created an understanding that data mattered more than what customers were paying us, and that a focus on the large creators of data, the big retailers, the big brands mattered more. And that's what we did. So what we ended up doing was we formed in 1999 with a core team. We went to the Central Florida Innovation Corporation and built a plan. We got seed funding. We partnered with Microsoft on a thing called Hailstorm. From 2000 to 2003, we survived. Remember those times? That was the time of the bubble burst. Through all kinds of creative means. We launched our first commercial product in 2002 in the middle of the absolute disaster of the industry. We launched our first retail product in 2003 at the end of it. We developed the largest database of retail offers by 2004, met with Google first in 2005, got a $15 million funding round from Internet Capital Group in 2006. We then gave, the hardest thing we ever did was we then gave the entire database to Google in 2006. Every single thing we just packed up and shipped to them for free. That was a major board meeting, set of board meetings on that. We launched a worldwide deal with Procter & Gamble, one of the biggest brands and continues to be the biggest brand for that company. Partnered with Google in 2011 and sold to them in 2012 for $125 million. That's what we did. Now, to be perfectly candid with you all, that's like listening to someone tell you about paint drying. I mean, did you get all the heartache and, there were so many hard decisions in there. And there were times when we weren't going to survive, and it's all really interesting, useless information. I mean, that's what happened, but it's not particularly valuable to anyone. And I realized that. There's a Steve Martin joke about plumber conventions, about how he told all these jokes that only plumbers would ever understand at a plumber's convention. I realized that whenever you stand up and hear these talks, that's all well and good, but what the heck does it do for you? So there was something else that I was doing at the exact same time. What I was doing was getting interested in an Ironman. Now, I don't know if you know what an Ironman is, but it is one of the hardest things you'll ever do in your life. This is what an Ironman is.
These people, all of these people want to do this.
It's okay, baby.
It just doesn't always go as planned.
You could say that it's a simple task, swim 2.1 miles, bike 112, run a marathon. But it's not easy.
Ironman is the single toughest event you will put your body through in your life.
Ironman really is the most amazing, most addictive sport that you could come across.
It's a process of seeing what you're made of and seeing what you can pull out of yourself.
It's just one long, tedious conversation with yourself. There's so many voices in your head saying stop.
You can get to the core of yourself, of who you are as a person, and you can find out what you're made of. You can find out whether you're tough enough to get through this.
That's the beauty of it, is crossing the finish line, but getting to that point is difficult.
Every individual has more greatness in them than they ever know is possible.
He believes in himself when others don't. She doesn't lose. He looks to become an all-time legend. And an 80-year-old who lives out his life swimming upstream. Ironman.
So an Ironman is a 2.4-mile swim, followed immediately by a 112-mile bike, followed immediately by a marathon. The rules are really easy. You start at 7 a.m. together, and you have to make it across the finish line by midnight. If you don't, it doesn't count. So you can cross across that finish line at 12:01, and they turn out the lights, and it's over. You can work the entire day and never get there. That's what an Ironman is. So I looked at that. That's from an NBC broadcast. And I looked at that and I thought, wow, that's really, really cool. I want to do that. Of course, you all thinking the same thing, right? So here's me in 2005. I'm 65 pounds heavier. I'm in the midst of running my company. I am the classic definition of a couch potato at the time. And I have a vision. I have a vision that I want to complete the Ironman World Championship. Now, that's not just an Ironman. That's the Ironman that you have to qualify for by doing another Ironman. So you have to do another Ironman, do it so well that you qualify for the Ironman. Now, obviously, sitting there, this is something that's completely doable for me, right? This is not a problem. I can obviously go do that. Anyone could go do that. That's what I decided to go do. But that wasn't all. My oldest boy, the one who had the ear infection, the one we had to move sorry, I jumped a little ahead. When you make a vision, when you look at the vision of your business, you need to think in the terms of what is epic. Something that is beyond what you imagine. People say dream big. You want to create a vision that is epic. Something that you want to happen and something that is amazing when it does. Want to make a great business? Create an epic vision. Now there's my goal. So I had a different goal. Now the boy my oldest boy, who's now 21, his name is Alex. That's him right there. Alex has Down syndrome. My oldest boy was born with Down syndrome. We have 2 other children now, but that was quite a surprise. Alex turns out to be a great kid. He's very capable. We didn't know that when he was born. We were very frightened by what would occur. But in 2005, I said, you know what? I've learned a lot of Alex. I've learned that Alex can do a lot of things that people don't think he can do, that people see a disability and they don't see past that. So I have another goal. I have a goal to show what people with Down syndrome can do. So not only do I want to do the Ironman World Championship, but I want to get Alex into the broadcast showing what someone with Down syndrome can do. Now that takes that epic vision to the absolute layer of lunacy. Still sitting in 2005, still 65 pounds overweight, don't own a bike, haven't swam in, I can't even remember when I swam last. I may have floated around the Typhoon Lagoon, that's not swimming. I decided that's what I wanted to do. If you want to create an amazing company, your goals have to be intensely meaningful. They have to mean something to you. It has to be the thing that you want to do. If you don't create intense meaning behind it, they're meaningless goals. They don't matter. You've got to create something that matters. Now, if I went back to the Google part, I could point to the sheet and tell you that that goal on data really mattered to me. But it doesn't matter to you. You don't want to have data. You haven't grown for 20 years in the data business. Maybe you have. But that mattered like that to me. As a matter of fact, Richard Fox, who'll be up on the panel, can tell you I drove him crazy at the original CFIG meeting because that mattered so much to me. He kept going, but what's the point of it? Find the point of it. It mattered to me. Okay. So as I started doing this thing, as I started going down an Ironman, I came to realize something that really struck me. What struck me was this, that all the things that I was learning when I was learning to do an Ironman were the same lessons I learned about business. In fact, they were reflecting the things I learned about business. All of these things were mirroring each other. So here's a picture. The thing you see on the right is all the stuff laid out for the day. I'm about to do a race. This is pre-Ironman. The thing you see on the couch there are 4 different bags. There are 4 bags, and this is how this works. An Ironman is an individual sport. You are not allowed any help at all. You have to do this on your own, which means that when you get out of the water, they're going to hand you a bag. And in that bag needs to be everything you need to change into and get out on your bike. If it isn't in the bag, you're not going out on your bike. And halfway through the bike, they hand you another bag. And that other bag is called your special needs bag. And in there is everything they're going to give you halfway on the bike. If you need it halfway, it better be in the bag. And then when you come off the bike, they hand you another bag. And that's got all the stuff for your run. And one more halfway on the run. These bags drive you crazy. They're horrible. Because what do you put in them? I mean, do you need extra socks? I mean, what do you put in this bag? What do you need halfway through? What are the things that you need in order to succeed? If you don't think this through, if you don't create a plan, if you don't figure this out, you could not succeed, not because you didn't try hard enough, but because you forgot something in that bag that you're going to need. You spend literally weeks thinking about those bags. I have a race coming up in 1 month. I posted on Facebook this morning a picture of that pile of stuff that is now sitting on my floor, slowly accumulating all the things I can think to remember to take to that. That is what you need. If you want to finish an Ironman, you've got to have a great plan. And that plan is about what you need. And if you don't take the time to do it, if you don't prepare, all the effort in the world is not going to stop you from missing the key piece of equipment that's necessary to succeed. If you don't think about it now, you don't have it then. Okay. Since this thing is slowly moving down, this is awesome. It's slowly getting out of the way. 62, 944, 4,014, or 0.3%. What do you think those numbers are? Any guess? 62 miles swimming. 944 miles running. 4,414 miles biking. That is the amount of time I spent training for Ironman Louisville from January until August when the race took place. 0.3% is the ratio of training I did to actually racing. That's the ratio of those miles to the actual miles when I raced. Now, if you want to know what this is, it's get on your bike in New York City, bike all the way to San Francisco, turn around, bike all the way back to Denver, Then go out into the plains a little bit beyond Denver to around the Kansas border, get off your bike, and run to Louisville, Kentucky. Then hop in the Ohio River and swim to Cincinnati. That's how much. If you want to be great at something, if you want to do something, you need to practice at it. How many times, seriously, are you practicing at business right now? Seriously. How many times are you sitting around learning something that you need to succeed and making sure you're great at it? Really? Or are you just kind of coming to work every day, doing the same thing every day, and assuming that if I just show up and at the race, I guess I'll just do the race because, you know, I just know how to race? Or are you actually training for what it is you want to be great at? You want to finish an Ironman? It takes that. The race is only 0.3% of it. Now, arguably the most important 0.3%, but still, it's only 0.3%. What do you think this number is? 13,500. Calories. That is the number of calories you burn when you do an Ironman, that race day. You burn 13,500 calories that day. Want to lose 65 pounds? I can tell you how to do it. 13,500 calories that day. You don't have, I don't have 13,500 calories stored up. You don't carry around that much. You don't have that amount. You do not contain that much energy. Generally, you're holding on to about 5,000. If you can trick your body and train your body into burning fat for fuel, you can usually get another couple thousand after that. Now, when you think about doing an Ironman, you don't think about 13,500 calories, at least as I did. That doesn't occur to you at all. You don't think, well, I got 13,500 calories, I have to worry about that. You think about biking and swimming and running, and that's what you end up thinking about. That's the thing that occurs to you when you're doing that. But if you don't think about that, if you don't know about that, you're not going to finish your race, because there's 4 disciplines in Ironman: swimming, biking, running, and eating. But you don't know about the eating part until I hired a coach who explained to me that if you're not good at balancing your electrolytes, balancing your food intake, controlling all of this, figuring all of this out, you're not going to succeed. In business, your mission is not the things necessary to accomplish your business. In business, you have a practical set of things that you need to do that are not the intuitive things. They're not the vision and the glory and the race, and everyone wants to go to that beautiful finish line, and it's a blast at the finish line. And they're not the obvious things at the top. Well, yeah, I got to write software, and I got to do this, and I got to do that. It's not that. There's a layer in there. In order to succeed, you need to create for yourself benevolent accountability. That's what a coach does. A coach isn't your board. They have their own reasons for being there. They have their own wants and needs. A coach is someone you pay to be on your side and not tell you what you want to hear. And believe me, I've yelled at that guy a lot. It's all his fault, usually. But what he is on my side. I pay him to be on my side. He's an expert, and he's my expert, and he's vested at my success. Where is your coach? Where's the person who's there for you, who's not got their own reason of doing it, but are there to help you succeed in this business? Create benevolent accountability. I did that at Channel Intelligence. I have that at my list. I created that because there are things you don't know. And there are things you won't see. And I can tell you that until I figured that 13,500 calorie deficit out, I was not succeeding at Ironman. I even argue that I argued with him about it. And he argued back. Okay, this is the World Championship. This is the big race. This is where all the bikes are stored. Right here, see it? All these are racks. See all the bikes? One lone bike. What do you think 2 hours, 20 minutes, and 5 seconds mean? How long the bike is like? There's a cutoff at every stage of the race. There's a cutoff. The swim cutoff is 2 hours and 20 minutes. That is the amount of time a 51-year-old doctor took to get out of the water. That's her bike. It's sitting there all alone because after doing all the things that she did, she wasn't allowed to go on. That's so unfair. That's so unfair. I mean, come on. 5 seconds. I mean, they couldn't let her go on. Come on. Yes, she was crying. Do you know what she said? One of my favorite lines. See you next year. Learning is the act of trying and failing and trying again. You want to get great at anything, you are not going to be great at it in the beginning. You want to be good at something, you're not going to be perfect from the start. In your company, do you reward people who make mistakes or punish people who make mistakes? Do you have a culture that says, good job, nice try, let's try again? Or do you have a culture that says, good job, nice try, we're hiring someone else now? If you treat a mistake as a failure, all you are doing is teaching never ever to try to do anything epic. Don't try to swim 2.4 miles, because if you fail, you're gone. I can't tell you how many times I've failed at different things at Ironman. And I've got stories about all the failures. In fact, all the good stories are about failing. It has to do with what happens after that that matters. In the world of channel intelligence, there was plenty of failure. But I never put it on the slide. I don't know if you noticed, but on that slide, everything went swimmingly. It was a beautiful slide. It was a perfect story. It started at the beginning, everything went great. We got all the way to the end, and I sold to Google. Wow. Yeah, because I don't tell the story about all the problems. I don't tell you the story about all the defeats. I don't tell you the days that I was wondering why the heck I was even doing this. I can't tell you the days where I had no idea how I was going to survive. I don't tell you those days because that's not what we do. But that is what actually happened. It's what happened the day after all of those days that matter. This is another transition. This is actually the bikes. You can see them here. Isn't that amazing? Those are all bikes. That big sea of things you see, those are bikes. Those are all bikes. They're ready to go. And frankly, the amount of money that's sitting in there is staggering. Those bikes cost between $5,000 and $10,000. It's just, you know, if you want to steal something. That's the place to go. And the security, not that great. Okay. 2614. What do you think that is? That is the amount of time in Ironman, Arizona, which is where that picture is taken, that I spent not racing. So when you get done swimming, you hop out of the water, stagger your way into a tent, get that bag, stare into it longingly for a while, then get ready to go out on your bike. And then when you finish the bike, you get your other bag, you take all your bike stuff off, you change into your run gear, and you go. It took me 26 minutes and 14 seconds to do that. I haven't been talking yet for 26 minutes and 14 seconds. I have no idea what I was doing. Did I take a nap? I must have passed out. I get ready to go to work way faster than that. I have no idea what I was doing. I was hanging out in the tent talking to people. I don't know, putting on my socks. I have no idea. 26 minutes, 14 seconds. Now I want you to imagine for a moment that instead of crossing the finish line at midnight, I crossed the finish line at midnight and 14 seconds. And nothing, I didn't get into, they shut the lights off, I didn't finish, I was not considered a finisher. Imagine that happened. It didn't, but imagine it did. And imagine it happened with me sitting 26 minutes and 14 seconds in transition, not racing. All I had to do was get my tail out and just start moving forward. 26 minutes and 14 seconds in transition. The synonym for transition is change. Change. I'm swimming, 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 and now I'm no longer going to swim anymore. Then I'm biking and biking and biking, and then I'm not going to bike anymore. And then I'm going to run, run, run until I finish. It doesn't matter how much I loved swimming while I'm biking. It doesn't matter how good I was at swimming while I was biking. It has absolutely nothing to do with how good I am at that. I'm now biking. And then after I'm done biking, it doesn't matter how much I loved the biking part or how good I was at the biking part, I'm no longer biking. If you want to succeed, you're in a world of change. You're in a world where things are not going to be the same. And it doesn't matter how comfortable or happy or good you are at the current thing that you're doing. It matters how much time you waste in transition when things change. If you want to succeed in our world, you need to reign supreme at change. You need to be the guy who runs in and a minute later is out onto his bike. Who says, I'm great at change, I'm good at change. Change is the thing I love the most. Change is where I gain an advantage. Now, in qualifying for a race, where it's all time, in Arizona, I failed to qualify. I failed to qualify because the person who beat me by a little more than 20 minutes. Because I sat around not dealing with change. Okay, so I already told you that midnight's all that matters. 16 hours, 59 minutes, 59 seconds, it doesn't count. After that, it doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter. That's so unfair too. My God. Really? I'm going to do all of this and then not have it count? Yet I can tell you, I've seen dozens of people get toward the end and just give up. Having done everything up until that point, they just quit. However, if you want to succeed, you don't succeed by thinking about 16, 59, 59. You don't run a company by thinking about selling it to Google for $125 million. That, while interesting and encouraging and maybe something that's motivating, is kind of a useless number. What matters is how long it takes me to swim, how long it takes me to change, how long it takes me to bike, how fast I'm going on my bike, what is going on right now with my nutrition. Those are the indicators of success. I've met with so many people who ask me, what does it take to sell your company to Google? And the answer is, stop thinking about selling your company to Google. What it takes to sell your company to Google is what it takes to succeed right now at this moment. That's what it takes. This is my favorite one. 9 hours, 34 minutes, and 17 seconds. This is the only one that I have in my office. It's me quitting. This is a picture of me quitting. I have this one in my office. I am quitting like you can't imagine. I am quitting. I am quitting more than you've ever quit in your life. This is my very first Ironman, and the only reason I'm not quitting is because I know this guy's taking my picture. You can tell because I'm not really tying that knot. I'm just holding it like I am tying the knot, and I'm looking down. Because I don't want him to take my picture, because I know I'm quitting. I know I'm going to quit. And I'm going to quit right now. Because there's no way I'm going to go on. This is incredibly painful. But I can't quit here, because this is right by the start and finish line. So I'm going to keep going. I'm going to continue on. And I'm going to go down the road about a quarter mile, because there it turns to the right, and I can get around that corner and quit. So that's all I'm going to do, is I'm going to get from here to there and quit. And then I got to there, and my son was there. And he said something to me, that same son. So I came around that corner, and there's another mile, and there's another turn. And if I go down that road to there, I can quit. So I got on there. I quit my way all the way to the turn, and then I quit my way all the way back to the start. It's a two-loop run, and then I quit my way all the way back down, and I eventually crossed the finish line with it. Now, what did he say to me? This is what he said. Now, honestly, when you're in that spot, when it's horrid, remember, you're brave. It was the most magical thing. Before I start this so abruptly, I told you that I had an epic goal. I told you that I had an intensely meaningful vision. I completed and finished the Ironman World Championship in 2010. I qualified, got there, and completed it. And in 2012, my company, my new company, sponsored the Ironman World Championship. And when doing that sponsorship, we sponsored this guy.
This is Brady Murray. Today is not about him.
In July of 2007, my son was born. And about 10 minutes after, they told us that he has Down syndrome. And it changed my world. As I've got to know my son, I realized that Down syndrome is not a bad thing by any means. It's a very special thing. He's a very loving child. He has a way to be able to connect with people in ways that nobody else has ever been able to do.
Brady's courage has inspired Ironman finisher and MyList CEO Rob Wight, whose son Alex bonded with Murray over a shared love of triathlon. Together, MyList and Brady continue to drive awareness around a very personal cause.
As a father of a child with Down syndrome, I had no idea that there were orphans throughout the entire world that are essentially abandoned at birth simply because of their disability. And knowing that literally there are hundreds, if not thousands, of orphans with Down syndrome throughout the world, and seeing this as an opportunity to be able to race for them, I jumped at it. And I thought, you know what? I may not be able to do an Ironman for myself, but I know I can do one for these kids. But I know from experience, as a father of a son with Down syndrome, that the biggest blessing is not the child getting a family. It's the family that's going to get that child. They'll receive the biggest blessing in this. And that's ultimately the core of why I do what I do.
As the parent of a Down syndrome child, Brady Murray knows the true meaning of this personal feat. He's raising awareness and raising money, providing an opportunity for a Down syndrome orphan.
It's going to mean life. It's going to mean hope. It's going to mean that ultimately a family is going to be united with a child.
And through the generosity of MyList, this hope will become a reality. They have pledged the full adoption cost for a child. Because of Brady's determination, one of these children will be finding a home.
That's why we do Ironman. That's ultimately what it means by anything is possible.
goal was to do something that I thought was the vision was to do something that I thought was impossible. The goal was to do something incredibly meaningful. In that amount of time, by working hard, by learning what it takes to accomplish it, we were able to get to the point where we were able to show what I wanted to show and do what I wanted to do in Ireland. Running a business is no different than this. You've got to be intensely meaningful. It's got to be something that you work at every day, and you've got to take the steps every day to work toward that goal and never stop. And eventually you get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't think I would do any justice in trying to summarize what has just been said by Rob or by picking out the highlights. It was all good. I truly appreciate Rob putting this together for us. And to kick off the event today, please give him another warm round of applause. And in fact, we have imposed on Rob to, we knew the time was tight for him. He normally can speak on this topic for about an hour. So we've got him in the next session, which is the VC panel session. So Rob, if you'd like to grab a seat, and I'd like to invite Richard Fox and Rick Van de Ven to come on stage so that we can now get into our second session for this morning. But just by way of a brief intro, Rick Van de Ven, he's a director of River Cities Capital Fund, which has about $500 million under management, capital management. He is based in Raleigh, North Carolina, and truly we're grateful that he's come down. I know he keeps very, very busy, and to grab his time is also a bit difficult, plus he has to travel. So thank you for that. And he has been with the River Cities Capital Fund since from 2004. And prior to that, he was with Scient, a global EBIS consulting firm, and also with Accenture. And the other speaker, the person in the middle, is Richard Fox. I've known Richard for about 13 years now, ever since I moved to Orlando. Richard has been a very strong advocate, actively supporting the nurturing and growth of entrepreneurship in the Central Florida region. When I met with him first, he had founded and was the head of Central Florida Innovation Corporation, better known as CFIC. And CFIC launched several companies, and we've heard from Rob about the connection between Richard Fox and Channel Intelligence. Recently, Richard has been involved in startups in the areas of semiconductor space and batteries. He's got 14 patents to his name. The topic and of course, we've just heard from Rob Wight, so I'm going to just let his words speak more than I can introduce him. The topic is VC funding in this market, in this region, in this time. So we want to be very practical. And here we have, Richard is also the head of the Idea Fund. So we have two gentlemen who are able to cut checks and write money, give money. And we have one gentleman from the entrepreneur side who has been successful in receiving the money. So we're talking to the people who are directly involved in giving and receiving money. And so that is what this panel is about. And what I'd like to do is, we've got a series of questions here, and which we'll pose to the panel that we've gone through. But before we do that, perhaps a 2 or 3 minute statement to kickstart off their thoughts and to give an overview as to what they think and just about anything on this subject matter. And I'm going to put Rick on the spot to get things rolling.
Okay. Great, thank you for inviting me here to the conference. And TIE is a wonderful global organization, and I've had the opportunity to be involved with a couple different chapters, and pleased to be invited to come down and speak here. First of all, I feel like there's some theme music going on playing out of this this box right here. I don't know if that's for us to get us motivated or what, but I don't think we need that after hearing Rob speak. That was really phenomenal. I was scribbling down notes furiously, and you know, I'm one of those couch potatoes that you talked about, and you know, that was very powerful. So River Cities Capital Funds is a venture firm that has about $500 million under management. We're currently in the process of wrapping up fundraising for our 5th fund. So we, every 4 or 5 years or so, we get to go through the humbling process of going around to limited partners, hat in hand, and telling them our story and doing the same sort of pitching that a lot of the entrepreneurs have to do. And I think that keeps us all grounded. It's a good thing. And you know, we've been fortunate to have partnered with a lot of great entrepreneurs over the years, and that enables us to continue doing what we do. Obviously, the lifeblood of venture capital is being able to invest in great entrepreneurs and having liquidity, and that allows us to then raise subsequent funds and return capital to our investors, some of which are you know, health foundations and pension plans and people who are trusting us with their money to get good returns. So it's a powerful ecosystem, and you know, we're all very thankful for you know, folks like Rob who've been able to create a lot of value in the markets. We invest in healthcare and IT companies. On the healthcare side, it's medical devices, healthcare services, healthcare IT, and on the IT side, it's primarily business-to-business software as a service would be our focus area. We're a little bit more growth equity investors, which to us is sort of defined as 2 to 20 million in revenue at the time of our investment. And you know, we really see ourselves as being able to add value more on the sales and marketing execution and helping companies scale up from a couple million in revenue up to, you know, 50 to 80 million or so, and looking for strategic investors or buyers at that point. We have an office in Cincinnati, Ohio, so I have not swam from Louisville to Cincinnati. I'm not sure that I would want to in that river, but certainly, you know, we have a strong presence throughout the country, really outside of Boston and Silicon Valley, because they have plenty of money, and it's really the rest of the country that's in real need for our capital. So that's us.
Richard.
Okay. So early in Rob's presentation, he said that he set out to build an amazing company. And that resonated because the Idea Fund is an early stage fund, as opposed to what Rick just described. We make first outside investments into companies that have had founder investment, maybe angel investment, maybe first outside investment. And my estimate is that there's over 1,500 of those companies in this community. We're not going to make 1,500 investments. We're not going to make 150. We're not going to make 15. We're going to make a few per year. We're looking for amazing companies, a few amazing companies. How do you recognize an amazing company? Well, a few weeks ago, I had a work session with a successful entrepreneur. It was not Rob, but it was another person who had a similar success story. They had done the hard part. They had sold their company. They now were reanalyzing what they were going to do with the rest of their life. And they decided that they were going to give back to the community and be an angel investor. And they used the phrase, amazing company. And so we had a discussion, and here was the definition of what an amazing company is that came out of that discussion. The first point was that it was striving for significantly large revenues. And we talked about what that meant quantitatively, and we picked the number $100 million a year of revenue as a goal. It wasn't an amazing company if it wasn't striving to get to $100 million. The second point was that it was striving to dominate a growing market. dominate a growing market. And that it was going to dominate by changing the rules of the game. I'm saying an awful lot in just a very few words. Changing the rules. You may have thought about the phrase disruptive. Going in and doing it the way that nobody else has done. Channel Intelligence changed the rules in consumer data, data about consumer purchases on the internet. The third point we came up with was protection against copycats. That the company would have a definitive plan for how it would protect against copycats. The simple answer is patents. There's a lot more than just patents to achieve protection against copycats. And the wrong answer is I'm going to be first to market and I'm going to brand the heck out of things. That is not protection against copycats. The final point we came up with was it would be run by a national quality team. When you're looking for an amazing company, you're not looking for a good company in Tampa. You're looking for an amazing company that can stand up on the national scale. And having generated success for people in the past is one good indication of somebody that is of national quality. Prior success creating money for other people in the past is a good indicator. And the other indicator is the ability to pivot, because the original amazing vision didn't turn out to be quite right. It never is. But the ability to pivot and not lose the company and not run out of money while you're doing it. So that is what we're looking for.
You don't really need to hear from me, do you? I've already had like half an hour to tell you who I am.
Well, why don't we get right into it? And I think Richard has touched on this already, or has more than touched on this, but the question was going to be, what do VCs look for in a company? What are the things that they look for? And maybe I'll get to, we'll start that off with Rick first, and then Richard can add a bit to that if he wanted to.
Well, certainly to echo some of those comments, I think that was very well said. Obviously, management is critical. One of the things that I've learned and that I like to do is certainly whenever there's trade shows that are going on around the time that we're looking at making a potential investment, is to go with the management team and walk the floor with the CEO and see how many of the companies that he's or she is familiar with, and see how many people from those other companies know who that person is, and come up to them and say, hey, what's going on with this new company that you're doing? I'm really interested in doing that. I'd love to come and work with you again and whatnot. And so that speaks to the experience in the marketplace, but also that they're seen within that overall market as being sort of a leader, and that people want to work with them, that they know that they're doing something that's disruptive and exciting. So that's certainly management's obviously important. Large markets, or what I'll deem valuable markets, is what we'll look for. So we have an investment in a company that develops cyclotrons for the PET imaging market. It's basically the fuel pumps that create the drugs that PET imaging machines use. So PET imaging is one of the fastest imaging modalities. It's a $10 billion marketplace. The cyclotron piece of it is not $10 billion, but it's critically important because you can't drive the car without the fuel pump. You can't drive the PET machine without the drugs, and so that's a very valuable marketplace as an example. So not necessarily a huge market, but valuable. Capital efficiency is another thing that's important. It's a lot of times companies will be funded early on by angel investors, and then it turns out that because it's in a competitive, noisy space, they'll end up having to raise $100 million over the life of the investment, and oftentimes the angel investors won't do so well, or the smaller funds markets where we believe it can be capitally efficiently addressed. And so that's partly why we like business-to-business oriented software, because there's usually a lot less noise in the marketplace than there can be on the consumer side. So those are just a couple points.
Richard, would you want to add?
Yes, when an outside investor, a professional investor, makes a first outside investment into a growing company, it's very hard to analyze whether that company is going to be successful. If there was a set of questions that people could put answers to and check marks to, and you could then decide whether you have a successful investment, it would be posted on the internet and everybody would use that list. I can assure you that list does not exist. It is not possible to decide whether it's a good opportunity by asking questions and putting check marks and scoring. In our case, we've come up with an inventive solution to the problem. We do grants before we do investments. We ask companies to make proposals, and then we literally hand out up to $50,000 in grants. We do this in North Carolina, and we do it in Florida. And it's done a couple of times a year. And the idea is that the grant program brings forward to us all the people who are busy writing plans, that's how we find them, and we then cocoon them with mentors and advisors if we select them to win a grant. It's not debt, it's not equity, it's a gift. But it comes with a rule. You have to spend the money on building the company, not paying yourself a salary. And so we then cocoon the people with mentors and advisors and observe what they do with up to $50,000 in a cocoon. And if they make a mess of things, or the team falls apart, we just saved ourselves a lot of money. And if they do wonders with $50,000 and 6 months' time, we can see the germ of an amazing company. And we then follow through with the investment.
Thank you. Rob, I'm going to switch it around a little bit for you. No surprise there. But before I do, just to gauge in the audience, how many of you would class yourself as entrepreneurs setting up a company or have set up a company? And how many of you are now, the answer is always going to be yes, but how many of you are actively looking for money, be it angel money, VC money, friends, family, and how many were lost? Rob, I'm going to switch it around for you, which is that what are the best ways you found a VC? You not only found a VC, you actually got money out of them, a number of times. So, how do you find a VC? How do you approach them? And what are the things to do and not do? So it's a mixing up a few things, and at your pace.
So, move this up. I wish better with those louder ones. Okay, so the other element that's here is really the need to absolutely stand out amongst all the people you see in this room. And you guys got to turn around and look at each other and realize that you're all competing with each other in this particular regard. You are. If you want to be the one that's picked, you need to be the one that stands out. If you are not, if you're one of the herd, you're pretty much never going to go anywhere with what you're doing. So first things first is stand out. Stand out, stand out. I really enjoy rules from venture capitalists. They're fun. I never follow them, ever. Any of them, ever, because they're designed mostly to make you not stand out. They're waiting for the guy who comes in and says, yeah, whatever. That's how I'm supposed to submit a business plan. I'll land a balloon in your backyard with my business plan. I'm not putting it through your stupid fax thing. It's true. You want to get their attention. You've got to prove that you are willing to do the things that other people are unwilling to do. and think the things that other people are incapable of thinking, and stick with the things and show persistence. I can't tell you how many times, I actually can't think of a time when the first time through I succeeded. I can think of one now, but I can't think of a single time for the first time through. It's always after the no that matters. It's always after the no. And what comes after the no is way more important than what comes before the no. If you're one of the lucky few who actually gets a yes on your first attempt, then God bless you. What the trick is to figure out how to get through that and pierce through that. Using my little Ironman analogy, the thing that I find most shocking, and this is really true, is I cannot tell you how many people I watch. I'm not the leading kind of guy in an Ironman. I tend to be the one who's out there with the masses. So I get a lot of time to watch a lot of people. I cannot tell you how many times I watch people tear off their number and storm off the course. Like, what the hell? Who pissed you off? I mean, where are you going? I cannot tell you that. One of the slides I didn't use was called conditions, and the note of conditions is conditions affect everyone. In your mind, you think things are going to be perfect. You've got this vision about how that, I'm going to go to Ironman, race is going to be during the day. How it's all going to be so perfect. The weather's going to be beautiful. There's not going to be any wind. The temperature's going to be just right. Everything's going to go your way. It never is like that. Ever is like that. What a venture capitalist looks for is not someone who can put on a good show. It's someone who can take a punch and stand right back up and go again at it, and take another punch and stand up and go again at it, and then another punch and stand up and go again at it, and every time says, okay, I learned this and I learned that, and we're going to go do that now. If you want to get my money, that's what you've got to show me.
Thanks. Well, that brings us, one of the things that Rob touched on was the business plan. And as all entrepreneurs know, we have all had our share of business plans and writing them, and whether that should be this format, that format, however many pages long, and with an executive summary or not. And tell us a little bit about the business plans, Richard, and their usefulness in this whole exercise and what they should be or should not be.
This question begs an analysis of the present customs and styles. My recommendation is don't get hung up writing the world's best business plan. The only thing that proves is you can write a colorful document. There are some fundamentals. You need to be able to articulate what your concept is and why it's amazing and why you think it's going to work. You need to be able to articulate your financial plan in detail, and it has to be credible. And it needs to be 5 years. And everybody understands that you don't know what's going to happen next week. But the reason for the 5 years is that the venture money will be tied up at least that long. And there has to be an understanding that there's at least one way this might plausibly work and actually do something meaningful over a 5-year period. So you need to work out the financial plan for 5 years in writing. Have a professional guide you on how to do it. That part's very important. The business plan can probably be a 15-slide slide set summarized in a 3-page written document, and that is good enough for most purposes. Don't get hung up writing a colorful document.
Rick?
Yeah, you know, I mean, I've always found them to be a good process tool for the entrepreneurs to kind of help them create a vision, think through all the different ways that they might fail when you want to talk about the competition and whatnot. And because a lot of times entrepreneurs, God bless them, you have blinders, right? Because you're so focused on what that end goal is, and I think the business plan helps to open up the blinders a little bit and see what else is out there, and helps form a good coherent argument for us. But the reality of it is that it's really a tool for you. I mean, I'll read the first paragraph. Okay, I get what the market is, I get what they're doing. I flip to the management team section. Okay, yeah, these guys have done it before. That's great. And then I look to the financials and see, are they being realistic in what it takes to get there? and then if I'm still interested, then I'll go back and read the next 3 paragraphs, and then I'll pick up the phone. I mean, the 30 pages in between there, I'm probably not going to get to until I'm starting to sit down and write my investment memo, and I'm like, oh, that's good content. You know, I can go and take some of that, right? I mean, that's sort of really the approach, because we're investing in you guys, right? It's the management team, and as long as it's a relevant market that we could be helpful in as well. I mean, we're not going to invest in something that we don't know anything about. We don't invest in biotech or clean tech, so it's helpful that that's in the first sentence, because then I know that I'm not going to waste my time, or your time. But it's important when you're doing that financial modeling that it shows me the management team's level of sophistication and how they put that together. And a lot of times you see plans where they only need $200,000 to build a $100 million company with 80 million of EBITDA or something, and it's just totally unrealistic on so many metrics. And that just helps with my understanding of their thought process, really, more than anything.
Another key question is all of this is, say you have traction there's a dialogue going on between the entrepreneur and the VCs. Valuation. What is the valuation? How does one get to it? How does one arrive at that number? Wrong.
Start with him. Okay, the main way to get to valuation is never ever talk about valuation. The trick, your first goal is to get in and convince a set of investors of the idea that you have. I want to bridge on something that just got said. So they don't believe, no one believes the 5-year plan. No one believes it. They don't believe that. I wouldn't believe it. You don't believe it when you create it. But it is an amazing tool in showing how to think through your business, and it teaches you that. Richard, back in the very early stages of Channel Intelligence's birth, that first paragraph, your elevator speech, your ability to nail that is so incredibly important. Anyone's only going to read that first paragraph, and you are either going to get them or lose them right then and there. If you cannot say it in that first paragraph, you're not going to get funded, you're not going to get going.
So I'm going to embellish on that. I coached Rob on the launch of Channel Intelligence, and the first time we met, I asked him for that opening statement, and he had one, and I didn't like it.
What he means is it sucked.
And I told him, fix that, and sent him away. And he came back about a week later with a totally new slide set. There wasn't a single slide in the new set that had been part of the original set. And we looked at the first opening statement, and it was better, but it was still bad.
Still sucked.
And we went through this cycle 4 times. It took about a month until Rob created an opening statement that you could remember 10 minutes later, and it was exciting. And when that happened, things started to move.
And what's really interesting about that is that years later, I mean, many, many years later, incredibly valuable. Richard is making that sound kind, because we were almost fighting over this, because it was such a hard process to build that up. But years later, in the Radio Shack building, in the Tandy building, which is an 11-story building, I swear this is true, I walked into an elevator. We've been meeting with 2 guys. His boss randomly stepped into the elevator with us. We were leaving. The guy who was buying our services said, "Oh, these are the guys from Channel Intelligence." And the boss turned to me and said, "Ding, press floor 1, what do you guys do?" And I went, you'd have to know me well enough to know the first thing that came to my mouth is I went, "My God, this is the elevator pitch." The very first thing I said. Then realizing I didn't have much more time, I immediately actually said the elevator pitch, finished it, the doors opened, he said thanks and left. The elevator pitch. But what these elements do is they focus your mind. They focus you down into what you can do. When an investor sees a tightly written, well thought through, customer-oriented first paragraph, they go, and these guys have thought about this. I mean, they know that pain went into that thing. When they see it loosely constructed, yeah, I'm thinking about that, they go, wow, who knows what they've got inside of there. That notion of building that is just incredibly important, and it is incredibly painful to do. And once you get it, you've got it. And until you do, you don't. MyList helps brands connect with users in social networks. Until you have it, you don't have it. Those are the things that matter about your business. So, you asked me an entirely different question I ignored.
And I was just thinking of ways of kind of butting in.
So the question you asked me is
valuation.
What's valuation again?
How much?
Yeah. So once you have a set of investors who are actually interested in your business, and you have a set of investors that, I sometimes say picking your investors is like picking your parents well, because you're going to be with them for a long time. They're going to have to be compatible. They're going to get what you're doing. They have to be interested in the business that you're in, really genuinely interested in it. And then you have to say, okay, how am I going to get these guys enough equity that they want to help me succeed? But not so much that they give away everything in the beginning, because I'm going for a lot of other rounds. So in valuation, you're also playing another game of competition. So they're all going to invest in 10-ish companies at any time in a portfolio, 20-ish, and they're making bets. They know they're not all going to succeed. They do. They're funding their next round. Oh my God! They'll be lined up at the door to try to be able to give them money. They've got their own competition they're dealing with. They've got to bring home a certain return, and they have a bet going. And the bet is going as how many companies are going to succeed. And you want to be one of the chosen one. You want to structure your business and your deal with them in such a way that they feel like you are the ones who are going to succeed. Like you're the cream of the crop. So once you have an investment, it's not good enough just to get an investment. You want to be the guy who is the leading investments that he puts at the top of the stack every time he goes to his partner meeting to talk about what's happening. And that is a combination of how much equity they own, how much you let them into your business and control it. Help is not a four-letter word. Sometimes it is, but mostly it's not a four-letter word. And how much your business is aligned with and listening to the goals of your investors. So, it's an individual thing. I'm not going to give you a number. It's not possible to give a number. But the reality of it is that if you look at your market, you look at your possible valuation, you look at a realistic discount on it, and then you look at the portfolios they're investing in, if you squeeze these folks down to the point where they have really no equity in it, I can guarantee you when the going gets tough, you're the odd man out.
So I can give you verbally a formula that you can use to address this valuation question. That statement is an oxymoron, right? There is no single formula that solves the valuation question. If you're engineers, you'll recognize what I'm about to say. I'm going to describe a problem with boundaries, and you can then figure out what's going on inside the black box because you understand the boundary conditions. The most important boundary condition is the venture investor needs to make 10 times their money back. That is a fundamental. Are you going to shake your head yes on that?
Yeah, I mean, we're a little bit more growth equity, so a lot more. It's really risk reward, right?
Risk reward. So early stage, let's accommodate that. Early stage, 10 times their money back. Risk reward on a more mature company, 5 times.
Yeah.
Okay? That is fundamental. You have to deliver that. What can you manipulate to deliver that? There are only 3 answers. The valuation of your company when the deal is cut, the revenue you're going to achieve when your company is sold, and the multiple of revenue that the buyer is going to use to price the company when it's sold. That's it. How big are you going to be? What industry are you in, and what multiple is going to be used, and what is the starting point, the valuation today? That's a spreadsheet problem. You can do the math for your company, for your numbers, and prove to yourself that you're either offering 10 times return or 5 times return or not offering it. And if you're not offering it, you got to fix one of the three.
It's really just a quick rejoinder to that before we throw it open for Q&A from the audience. So please get your questions ready.
Sure, yeah. So, you know, comparables are obviously really important, and you want to take control of that discussion, right? Because if the VC, if you give him or her time to go off and look for comparables, you know, they're going to find the full range of companies that are similar that sold in your space and whatnot, and have some sort of an idea. It's better if you up front basically give, you know, some good examples so that they sort of already anchored at a higher number because of what's going on in the marketplace and what companies are being sold for. You know, this idea of sort of long-term planning in multiple rounds is really important because, you know, certainly I'd say earlier, you know, the last decade, a lot of angel people came in and paid really high valuations and then went through significant down rounds. And a lot of VCs don't want to deal with sort of a lot of hair on deals where they have to do, you know, a cram down on angels and whatnot. It's just, life's too short, there's too many good deals out there, they're going to go find something that's easier to do. So be realistic when you're raising money. And then the last thing is valuation is only one of the key things that you need to be thinking about, right? I mean, deal terms, there's an old saying of, okay, I'll take your valuation, but you'll take my deal terms, right? And so unless you really understand what all those deal terms mean, you would be better off taking a lower valuation with, you know, more plain vanilla terms than, you know, a 2x liquidation preference with PIK dividends and whatnot. So.
And really, we are pretty crunched for time, and there are a lot of other key questions like deal terms and the do's and don'ts, but we won't have time to get into that. Just wanted to leave time for 2 or 3 questions from the floor. So if anybody has any questions, there's a microphone up there, just set up there, and a short question, and so that the speakers can respond to that, and you might want to point to who it is that you'd like to. Yep, please, step forward.
I can be heard from here, rather than
sure.
Trying to climb through there. You guys ever look for things that are going to give you residual income quickly?
No. That was a nice short answer. I appreciate the short question too. Thank you.
Okay. I know when you said, I'm trying to remember what it was referenced to, protection against copycats, you mentioned first to market. However, what kind of value do you place on first to market?
Negative value. Second to market is a good business strategy. First to market is a big red flag for us.
Thank you.
Next.
Okay. When doing due diligence on companies, what do you find the most hardest to understand, especially like in the new emerging markets, disruptive technology?
What the size of the market will eventually be and how long it'll take to get there. I mean, I think one of the challenges with venture is that you have a lifespan of, you know, 10 years if you were the first investment. If you were their last investment, it's really only 4 or 5 years before you have to reach liquidity. So, you know, we invested in a company that was a biometric device company, and, you know, we were basically, now that the new Apple device has one embedded in it, we were about 8 years too early.
So the interesting thing also about this is that if you think through the practical ability to create a value in the thing that you're creating, one of the hardest parts you're going to ever do is try to convince someone that that value you're creating is somehow tied in a meaningful way to a change in the market. Markets change really, really slowly, and true disruption is really hard to create. So I can't tell you how many times I've sat in meetings in my own companies or listened to people tell me that they had a disruptive idea, and you sit there and you go, it may be and it may not be, but truly disrupting a market is an extraordinarily difficult thing to actually accomplish. And they take great skepticism when you walk in and say, oh, this is going to change everything. Momentum's a powerful beast.
Rob, I just downloaded the MyList app from Google Play. I see that there's 1,000 downloads.
Yeah.
And it was uploaded in March. I was wondering what your goal is in the first month of downloads and what type of marketing you're doing to increase that.
So the app has little to do with the strategy of MyList. It is a, this is a long answer, so I'm going to try to do this really short. In being able to, our goal is to link brands with consumers. And in order to do that, we create something called an authentic product. An authentic product is the actual thing people want to talk about combined together. So if I said, how do you like the new iPhone 5S? That's an authentic product, but that actually doesn't exist. There's no such thing as an iPhone 5S. There is an iPhone 5S Verizon 32 gig Wight, but there isn't an iPhone 5S. So you want to talk about one thing, but you buy something different. That's a combination that needs to happen. Facebook and Twitter have no interface to populate those products into their inside. With Google, we could send them the data feed with all the information. Facebook doesn't accept them. So we had to create a user app that brands use to post, and it populates the products into the social networks by users carrying them in. It's a strange kind of world in social networking. You have to have a Trojan strategy, and you just asked me a question about how my Trojan horse is doing. It's fine, thanks. It's not my strategy.
Thank you. We have time for just one more question, if there is any. Yep, please do.
You were talking about, exit strategy from actual investors. What kind of time frame do you guys generally look at for that 5 or 10 time, return from, point A to exit?
Well, again, it ties back to sort of the structure of venture funds as an investment vehicle. And they tend to have a 10-year lifespan where they can go back and ask for 1, 2, or 3 additional years from their LPs. And that's it, right? So depending on where you're invested in during that cycle gives you sort of some idea of how much runway you have to run. And if you're a company that's continuing to grow and exceed what's called the cost of capital, right? We have sort of calculations of, you need to be growing and increasing the value of the company and my investment at more than, call it 25%, per year or so. Otherwise, it probably makes sense to sell. But of course, there's different optimum times to sell. Sometimes a strategic comes in and offers you a really big number that you can't refuse. And then other times you can see where the market is continuing to evolve and develop, and waiting an extra couple of years makes the most sense. So, typically it's kind of, most people will say, 5 to 7 years.
Richard, a quick time estimate on that?
Yeah, 5 to 7 is fine. Realizing that we're out of time, we haven't actually answered the question, where do you find the money? And if you're okay, I'd like to do that in about 2 minutes. Sure. Does that work? Okay. It turns out that for most companies, the money does not come from venture capital or from angels. For 80% of the companies that are out looking for money, the money comes from the founders' families, and friends.
And customers.
And customers, yes. And so the second most common answer is strategic partners. Right now in this environment, if you can get a customer or a strategic partner to be your friend and to provide the financing through non-recurring engineering or through an equity relationship, this is a really strong way to do things right now. If you're looking for angels, angelcapitalassociation.org has a list of the active angel groups, almost all of them in the country, and that's the organized angels. There's a whole nother topic about the hidden angels, and a good source there is your attorney, because angels need attorneys, and the attorneys know who's acting like an angel. They're not necessarily able to give you a list because of confidentiality, but they can open some doors. Grants is the next most likely source. SBIR government grants are a really good program. Take a good look at that. And then after that, after self-funded, after friends, after partners, after angels, after grants, the sixth source is venture capital. And the very bottom of the list, the seventh source, is license your product and get a license revenue flow. That's the least promising of the possible answers.
Thank you. I'm afraid we'll have to end the session here. I know we can continue for another 30 minutes. We've got a whole list of questions, but like the previous one, we've got an exciting program throughout the rest of the day. It just so happens that the first names of all three panelists begins with R. So Richard and Rob.
Richard too.
Okay, great. Well, let's show our appreciation for their input.